We'll start today with a small but powerful quote from Rudyard Kipling. It comes from his poem, We Had a Teapot, and it goes like this. We had a teapot at, let it leak, not repairing made it worse. Now we've had no tea for a week, and the bottom's out of the universe. That image of a broken teapot leading to the collapse of something as big as the universe isn't just clever poetry. It's a reminder that when we ignore small cracks in the foundations of life, they can eventually grow into disasters. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. How the bottom of our universe feels like it's falling out. If you look back at history, societies have almost always been controlled by a minority, whether it's kings, religious leaders, aristocrats, or modern corporate elites. A tiny fraction of people steer the direction of everyone else. Today, that might be just 10% of the global population, or even less. And the most frustrating part? These people, the ones with the most power, rarely have to deal with the same problems the rest of us face day to day. That disconnect is dangerous, because the truth is, the most valuable resource we have on this planet isn't money, technology, or even natural resources. It's people. Humanity itself is the driving force behind our survival, not just as a species, but for the planet as a whole. Yet somehow, the vast majority of us barely have a say in how things are run. And it's not that the people in charge are all villains. Most aren't evil masterminds. They're not fools either. But many of them have become so insulated in their intellectual ivory towers that they've lost touch with what's real. They look down at the world from a distance, if they bother to look at all. Here's the paradox. In the last 50 years, science, technology, and education have advanced faster than at almost any other time in history. We've achieved incredible breakthroughs, yet somehow we find ourselves in worse shape than ever before. Why? The problem isn't lack of intelligence or lack of progress. It's our attitude towards survival. The mindset guiding our world has become disconnected from the basic humanity that should be at its core. But something new is stirring, a fresh wave of humanism. It's not about chasing utopias or idealistic fantasies. It's about recognizing the dignity, rights, and authority of ordinary people. It's about realizing that the so-called average person isn't a threat, isn't looking for war, and isn't trying to strip the world of its resources. Most people simply want to be good parents, good neighbors, good citizens. They want a safe, peaceful environment where they can live and grow. The problem is that the gap between leaders and the people they govern has only gotten wider. And, after a while, we start to realize these leaders don't represent us anymore. The system they've built isn't working. Take nuclear technology as an example. Humanity learned to harness the atom. It was one of the most powerful discoveries of the modern age. But, decades later, we still haven't figured out how to safely deal with nuclear waste. And that waste threatens our very survival. The people at the top, the ones tasked with guiding us through these issues, aren't capable of handling problems at this scale. Their strategies are out of step with the size of the threats we face. And if they can't lead us through something this important, then clearly something has to change. At the core of this change is a simple truth. The human being has the inalienable right to be human. Inside every person lies potential far greater than any institution or intellectual structure. We forget sometimes that we're not separate from the universe. We're part of it. The same forces that move the stars and planets also move us. If we dig deep enough, we can find within ourselves the same laws of survival that govern the cosmos. But from the moment we're born, society pushes us in another direction. Instead of encouraging this inner exploration, we're taught to follow strict rules, to stay in line, to accept systems without question. Think about school. Most of us weren't taught how to think for ourselves. We were told to memorize, to recite, to pass exams. And if we failed those exams, we weren't allowed to move forward. If we failed often enough, we were labeled as less capable. Rebels and nonconformists were pushed to the margins, called mediocre or outcasts. And then we wonder why so few people are confident in their own thinking. Look around at the monuments to human achievement. Tech giants, space exploration, the dream of colonizing the moon or even Mars. There's no denying that these things are impressive. Young people's eyes light up when they talk about space or about the next big leap in computers. But here's the uncomfortable truth. While we've been chasing stars, we've been ignoring the problems under our feet. Wars, waste, epidemics, the depletion of natural resources. These issues are here, now, and they threaten our survival. Yet the people in charge are distracted by their lofty ambitions, leaving the problems of Earth neglected. It's not easy to convince people to stop and pay attention to these issues. But the warning signs are all around us, every single day. We don't have the luxury of ignoring them anymore. The average person is trapped in a cycle of self-doubt. From an early age, we're taught to respect the wisdom of experts, professionals, and intellectuals, even when that wisdom doesn't reflect the reality of our lives. The moment we challenge it, we risk ridicule. So, we stay quiet. This conditioning makes us feel like our own thoughts and instincts don't matter. But the truth is, among all the inventions humanity has ever created, nothing is more powerful than the innate potential inside every person. This isn't some abstract philosophy, it's a fact. If we want real solutions to today's challenges, we need to look inward, because within each of us lies a resource more powerful than any machine or system: common sense. Common sense isn't a fancy concept, it's the ability to understand the world on a deeper level, to make choices based on what's right, not just what's profitable or easy. And while every person has access to it, society has consistently undervalued and suppressed it. Our minds weren't meant to just absorb information. They were meant to question, to explore, to innovate. Yet the education system, the corporate world, and the culture we live in all push us toward conformity. We're told to agree, to accept, to follow the status quo, even when it's clear it isn't working. And deep down, more and more people are starting to feel that something is wrong. They may not be able to put it into words, but the unease is growing. Because as we inch closer to global conflict, mass destruction, and environmental collapse, the cracks in the system are becoming impossible to ignore. Here's the tough reality. The system doesn't serve humanity as a whole. It serves a small group of ambitious people who value power above all else. These elites, whether political, economic, or intellectual, aren't focused on fixing the world's problems. They're focused on furthering their own agendas. And while they pursue wealth, military might, or prestige, the rest of us are left distracted and overwhelmed. The average person is made to feel powerless, like their voice doesn't count. This illusion that the system will reward us if we just follow the rules is the biggest lie of all. In truth, the price of conformity is our individuality, our creativity, and ultimately our humanity. From childhood, we're told that success means following the rules. If you stray from the path, you're punished, sometimes subtly, sometimes harshly. Society tells us, if you don't conform, you'll be poor. You'll be excluded. You'll be irrelevant. But here's the thing. The very system we've been told to trust, the one that supposedly guarantees success, is the same system causing the greatest problems we face. The more we conform to it, the deeper the trap becomes. It's no longer enough to shrug and accept things as they are. We've reached a point where the survival of humanity depends on rethinking the systems we've built. If we keep moving forward blindly, repeating the same mistakes, nothing will change. That means we have to step back and ask ourselves, what are the structures in place that keep us from thriving? Why do we keep investing our trust in systems that fail us over and over again? We can't expect the world to transform if we keep doing the same things. We need to challenge those systems, expose their flaws, and take the responsibility of creating alternatives. Here's the hopeful part. Every single person has the ability to make that change. It doesn't start with massive revolutions or billion-dollar budgets. It begins on the individual level, with the decision to reclaim our autonomy, our creativity, and our power to think freely. We can't wait around for some savior or leader to step in. We've been waiting for too long. The solution has always been within us. We just have to find the courage to rediscover it. So much of the modern world is built on illusion. We're told the world has to be this way, that the game is rigged and we just have to play along. But that's not true. The problems we're facing aren't natural laws, they're man-made. And if they were made by people, they can be unmade by people. Recognizing this is the first step. But recognition isn't enough. Change requires action. We need to stop accepting that the world we inherited is the only way forward. We need to demand a new way of living, one that values human dignity, creativity, and compassion above blind obedience. Look around. Our political, economic, and educational systems are breaking down. These structures were designed to guide us, to help us evolve. But instead, they've become cages. They've locked us into lives of conformity and dissatisfaction. These systems distract us from the bigger picture, the need for unity, cooperation, and a shared understanding of what actually matters. More and more people are beginning to see through the illusion. They're realizing that these systems weren't built for their success. They were built to keep them compliant. And once that realization sets in, everything changes. You stop waiting for permission. You stop believing the lie that if you just follow the rules, everything will work out. What we need now is a shift, not just in policy or politics, but in mindset. A way of thinking that places the individual at the center, not as a selfish unit, but as a source of creativity, integrity, and contribution. Because history shows us that real change never comes from the top down. It comes from the bottom up. It comes from ordinary people realizing their potential, taking action, and uniting around what matters most. Think about it. The great shifts in history, civil rights, revolutions, cultural renaissances, didn't come because elites decreed them. They came because people refused to live in systems that denied their humanity. Every time a society collapses, it's the same story. People lose touch with their inner strength. They let themselves be guided by leaders who don't have their best interests at heart. Those leaders push their own agendas until the weight of corruption and detachment finally breaks the system. Right now, we're seeing that same pattern play out. The cracks are widening and the pressure is growing. But this also creates an opening. More people are questioning, more people are looking inward, and more people are realizing they have a role to play in shaping the future. We are at a turning point. The old systems are failing, and they're not capable of adapting to the challenges ahead. If we're going to survive and thrive, we need to rebuild from the ground up. This isn't about waiting for politicians, CEOs, or so-called experts to fix things. It's about realizing that we already have the tools we need inside us. What's required now is the courage to use them. At the center of this change lies something we've forgotten: personal integrity and responsibility. Somewhere along the way, we stop believing that we're responsible for our own lives and for the world we share. We outsourced responsibility to leaders, corporations, institutions, and in return, they gave us rules, distractions, and false promises. But the truth is, the key to healing the world has always been in our hands. It's in the choices we make every day. Do we keep feeding into systems that exploit us? Or do we choose to step outside of them, to create new ones based on fairness, creativity, and compassion? Responsibility is heavy, but it's also liberating, because once you accept it, you stop waiting, you stop blaming, you start acting. For too long, we've been told that success comes from climbing the ladder, from chasing wealth, power, and prestige. But this definition of success is hollow. It's an illusion designed to keep us running in circles. True success doesn't come from conformity. It comes from living with integrity, from treating others with respect, from contributing to something bigger than yourself. When you reject the false promises of the system, you open the door to something much greater. You reclaim your humanity, you reclaim your creativity, and you start to see the world not as it is, but as it could be. There's another truth we've ignored. Real transformation doesn't happen in isolation. We can't fix the world alone. The solutions to our biggest problems require cooperation, compassion, and unity. That doesn't mean losing individuality. It means recognizing our interconnection. It means understanding that the well-being of one person is tied to the well-being of us all. Love, compassion, cooperation, these aren't lofty ideals. They're practical necessities. They've been the foundation of every successful civilization in history, and they're the only way forward now. This isn't a new idea. Throughout history, spiritual leaders and philosophers, Moses, Jesus, Buddha, and many others, have pointed us toward the same truths. They taught that love, respect, and integrity are the keys to survival. These aren't just religious teachings. They're reflections of something deeper, something timeless. And every time humanity strays too far from these values, we suffer the consequences. Today, we live in a world where these truths are often dismissed. They're overshadowed by materialism, greed, and self-interest. But if we want a future worth living, we need to return to them. What we need isn't another patch on a broken system. We need a new approach, one that sees individuals not as cogs in a machine, but as sources of creativity, integrity, and value. We have to stop idolizing wealth, fame, and power as the ultimate goals in life. These things don't bring fulfillment. They don't solve our deeper problems. True success isn't about how much you accumulate or how high you climb in some hierarchy. It's about how you live with honesty, how you treat others, and how you contribute to the world around you. This is the essence of a renewed humanism, a belief that humanity, at its core, is capable of greatness when it aligns itself with truth, integrity, and cooperation. If we're looking for solutions, we won't find them by handing more power to the same elites who built the systems in the first place. We'll find them by looking inward, by tapping into the innate potential each of us carries. That means rejecting the lies and false promises we've been fed for generations. It means remembering that we don't have to accept the world as it is. The ability to solve the problems of our time lies in us, in our creativity, our common sense, and our compassion. When we start from that foundation, we're not just fixing problems. We're building a world that works for everyone, not just the privileged few. The future isn't something that just happens to us, it's something we create. Every choice we make, every action we take, shapes the direction of our world. That's why it's time to stop letting outdated systems dictate how we live. They no longer serve us. If anything, they hold us back. We have to reclaim the right to live in alignment with our own truth, not someone else's version of it. This responsibility is both personal and collective. Individually, we each have the power to live with integrity and authenticity. But collectively, when we come together with compassion and cooperation, that power multiplies. None of us can create meaningful change alone. The problems we face, climate change, inequality, war, waste, are too big for any one person. But together, with a spirit of unity, we can make progress. This isn't just about survival. It's about building a world where people feel valued, respected, and connected. A world where cooperation isn't the exception, but the rule. The truth is, we're all interconnected. Whether we admit it or not, the fate of one person is tied to the fate of all. When we treat each other with kindness and respect, we strengthen the whole. When we turn inward and act from integrity, we give others permission to do the same. We don't need to invent brand new principles to guide us. The values that matter most, love, honesty, respect, compassion, have been with us for thousands of years. They're the foundation of every civilization that has ever thrived. What we need now is the courage to live by them again. To recognize that chasing material wealth while ignoring these truths only leads to collapse. To understand that when we drift from these values, we lose our way. If we can realign ourselves with these core principles, we can rebuild a world that works, not just for the powerful few, but for all of humanity. The current system runs on promises it can't keep. It tells us that if we just follow the rules, work hard, and stay quiet, we'll be rewarded. But look around. People are working harder than ever, and yet inequality is rising, wars are escalating, and the environment is deteriorating. This isn't a reward, it's a trap. The promise was false from the start, and once we accept that, we can finally stop chasing after illusions and start creating real solutions. We're living in a moment of transformation. The old systems are failing, and more people are waking up to the truth. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of something new. We have the chance to create a future that reflects who we really are, not obedient followers of broken systems, but creative, compassionate, responsible human beings. This shift won't happen overnight, and it won't be easy. But every great change in history started the same way, with individuals deciding they would no longer accept the world as it was. The path forward is clear. Reclaim personal responsibility. Live with integrity and authenticity. Work together with compassion and respect. Reject systems that no longer serve us. Build new structures grounded in truth, cooperation, and humanity. This is not just about survival. It's about creating a future worth living, a world where the bottom of the universe is no longer collapsing because we've rebuilt it on stronger foundations, on values that can actually sustain us. And the truth is, we don't have time to wait. The challenges we face, wars, waste, climate crises, disconnection, aren't problems for the next generation. They're problems for us, right here, right now. The good news is, we already have everything we need to start fixing them. The solution doesn't lie in more wealth, more power, or more technology. It lies in us, in our ability to think critically, to act compassionately, and to take responsibility for the future we're building. The question isn't whether change is possible. The question is, are we ready? Are we ready to embrace our humanity, to step up, and to create a world that reflects who we truly are? The time for change isn't tomorrow. It isn't someday. The time is now.